He does.
It's not this particular one.
All right, everybody, welcome back to the House Committee on Government Operations and Military Affairs. So we're picking up our work on H 649. Draft 2.1 unedited is up on our committee website here, and Damian is here to walk us through it. So welcome back.
Great, thank you. We'll start the walkthrough down on page 5 of draft 2.1. So this is the session law covering the appointment to fill the existing vacancy on the Truth and Reconciliation Commission. So it provides the selection panel established in 1 VSA 905 shall fill the vacancy that exists on the effective date of this act, not later than 60 days after the appointed members of the panel are appointed. So it's a little bit of a mouthful, but.
So that's the session law that basically starts the clock.
Yeah.
Days after the panel is appointed.
Yeah, because likely those members will be appointed more than 60 days after the vacancy opened up. So just crossing the I's and dotting the T's, right?
Right.
Anybody catch that?
I did.
Getting that late in the afternoon? Are you just bored with my dad jokes?
No, it's also a proofreading joke. It's hilarious.
Yeah, this is the excitement here for those of us at Ledge Council. Speaking of proofreading, turning to page 6, Tucker noticed that I said pursuant to this section on line 15 instead of this subdivision, which would have had a really bad unintended impact of not allowing the commissioners to participate in any of the subcommittees and other things they create.
Yep.
So good catch, Tucker. And then to address Representative Higley's point about the groups established pursuant to that subdivision can continue to exist after the commission ceases to exist, provided that commission staff no longer provide assistance and commission funds are no longer spent in relation to the groups. So.
Does that satisfy your?
Yep.
Great.
You'll notice that all the sections numbers are highlighted. It's just because we've added sections. So I've changed the title of section 10 at the very bottom of page 8 to limited access commission meetings, exception to open meeting law.
Water settings.
You know, it's a proofreading question. Should limited access have a hyphen between two words? Because you're describing the commission
Great
meeting.
question. Yes. That's a great question. Off the top of my head, I am not sure how to come down on it, but I know that my editor is looking at it right now, and she is better on the hyphen issue than I
Oh,
am.
she'll have a hyphen for sure,
Yeah.
right?
So I will trust her to make that correction.
You said like you're wearing a super.
I have to.
Yeah.
We ought to have a giraffe king page on it.
Yeah, these are the kinds of things where I have to look in my grammar books. So believe it or not, I have several. So
It's,
I don't doubt that.
yeah, God, things like, when you're a kid, people are like, you're going to do a lot of work with grammar when you're older. Not something that I was telling myself.
Did you get one of the books from your grandma too?
We'll say
Oh,
to give us a gut check here, I did an alt F and looked for closed, and the word closed is no longer in this.
yeah, I did that too while I was editing. So,
Representative Henio has a quick question.
yes.
No, it's not a question. It's a minor typo, but I think it's farther along. It's on page 10.
Okay, we'll get there in a second. As used in this subsection, limited access meeting means a meeting that is live streamed and video recorded to which physical or digital access by members of the general public is limited as provided in this subsection A. That should really say physical or digital or both. Just gonna,
Think we heard from Tucker last year, that or means and or.
no, we do X or Y or both is an and or.
Okay,
Yep. So that one I do know. So, and it should be electronic access too, so,
Instead of digital.
yeah.
So that,
So I made a note here to correct that. And then, so we've left the material threat language as it was, just changing it to a limited access meeting. And then during a limited access meeting, the commission may restrict attendance at the meeting, whether in person or electronically, and participation in the meeting to commission staff and legal counsel, persons who are providing testimony or information to the commission during the meeting, members of the media, and other persons whose presence the commission determines is needed at the meeting.
going back up to digital versus, electronic. There are fewer, but there are still analog phones out there. Should it be remote access?
So what I did is I went back to Act 1. And so in the exemption or exceptions to the open meeting law, it says, quorum or more of members of a public body may attend a meeting by electronic or other means without being physically present at a designated meeting location.
So maybe electronic or other means, the full phrase instead of just electronic means.
well, but this is specifically about limiting access.
Right. And so what I'm trying to do is close a potential loophole that somebody could claim that, oh, well, I'm calling in on an analog phone, so therefore I can't be barred from this meeting.
Yeah, I don't think we need to be that specific.
Okay.
Because it'll refer of what I'm trying to do and what I was trying to do here is say it's whatever types of meetings are allowed by law is what they're allowed to do. And then the exception here applies to them limiting that. And if we're not accomplishing that, Damien, tell me, I don't think I think if we're silent on the telephonic, I don't think we're creating a loophole, but sure, Damien, I can disagree.
I think we could say whether in person, electronically, or by other means pretty easily, and then just cover ourselves.
Okay.
And since open meeting law is not my strongest area, I'd rather make sure we're covered than find out a year from now that I messed up. So I think saying by other means is fine. We'll cover telephonically. And who knows what other options become available. Yeah. So participation, we covered that, the list there. And then going down to page 10. Representative Hango, you had found a typo.
Oh, yeah, I have something else.
Oh, okay, on page 9.
So it is, okay, page 9, 3A, line 16 through 20.
Yep.
These agendas, I guess I never asked this question. The agendas are public knowledge. They're printed on a website that the commission maintains.
Yeah, the open meeting law requires there to be an agenda for a public meeting.
And the live stream, access to the live stream is on that agenda, according to what we're.
Yeah, so they're required to include information that allows the public to directly access the live stream. So that information could say, live stream can be accessed at the following, URL, or live stream could be accessed by clicking this live link, whatever it is that they're doing. Maybe they have a dedicated page on their site. Who knows? They have various options, but they need to include information on the agenda. So if someone's just looking at the agenda, they know how to get there.
And it could be last minute because they don't need to be specifically invited, as Representative Boyden was speaking of earlier as a
Exactly.
suggestion. So everybody really is invited to this meeting.
Everyone can watch.
Yes.
To participate in the meeting and to be, in attendance, you need to actually be someone that they provide access to. And that's the limited access piece of it.
Great. And is limited access defined? Did we just define that or not?
So it's essentially, we say that a limited access meeting means a meeting that is live streamed and video recorded,
Oh, there it
which
is.
physical, electronic, to which access, it should really just say to which access by members of the general public is limited as provided in this subsection A, and then we talk about that later on.
But it's not the access to the meeting that's limited. It is the
Participation.
participation. So I'm not sure I like that access word.
Well, we could call it a limited participation meeting. Doesn't have quite the ring, but
We are limiting access. So the request here is that they want to be able to say, these people can't come into this otherwise public meeting. They can't be in the room.
but yeah, we could say,
But if they're
But we
viewing
could
it on a live stream, you're not limiting the access.
right, I think what we could say is we can continue calling it a limited access meeting. You can say for which participation by the members of the general public is limited as provided in the subsection A, and then so you can be clear that we're limiting
Like the agents.
yeah, or
It's limited, but not access. I'm still not sold the access concept. Because if it is available on a public website,
to be fair, the access is limited because you cannot walk through the doors and
but
sit
that's only
there
until
in
July,
the room.
right?
So
Because they're not holding. public
Even
physical
after
meetings.
July 1st, they're allowed to have it in a closed room where the public can't come in, provided they live stream it, even if they can't be attending by electronic means. Does that make sense? So that's the one thing is they would be able to have a meeting in this room with the door locked. If they needed to for security reasons
But
under this.
live streaming it and.
But live streaming it.
Watch the live stream in real time,
Right, or view a recording of it.
right?
But they just can't come in and sit like a member of the public could just walk in off the street and watch here.
Sorry.
Oh.
I've forgotten how, we did briefly discuss the ability of somebody who is watching on a live stream to be able to submit a question to be asked. But I don't see it anywhere in here. Did that get kind of put aside that we weren't going to allow for that?
So the testimony we heard from Michelle Vera was pretty clear to me that when they feel the need to limit access, they do not want people to be able to comment in such a way that the folks who are participating in the meeting can be, threatened. And yeah, so the whole idea was that she wanted to be able, in the case where they've been threatened, to block access to folks, including a chat function, for instance. But that wouldn't preclude.
Yeah, this isn't a chat. This is like submitting a question to the host via electronic means. You type a question and then the host looks at the question, and if it's full of profanities, isn't going to say it, but if it's a reasonable question, we'll say, a viewer has this particular question for the commission or for the witness.
That level of specificity is something we're going to talk about in the rules around hybrid and remote meetings when we bring up S55. I was trying really hard not to get that specific in this bill.
But in this, the way it reads, that the general public who are not specifically invited ahead of time to give their questions or opinions will have no opportunity to engage in giving their question or opinion to the commission in live time. You see where?
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah,
Yep.
so that is, bless you, that is
But the,
a little bit of a concern, I think. I think I was still under the impression that it was gonna operate like a webinar where you could type in a question and.
Not
the witness
necessarily,
could-
but we're leaving that up to the,
Well, I was under the impression that this format would be used to protect someone from quote unquote harassment. And it would not be necessarily a period where any member of the public, somebody would be offering testimony, not being questioned about their testimony in the public. So there's no need for that.
yeah. I mean, that is the idea here was that they be able to have a meeting that's free of that. So they want to be able to limit who can access that if they find, and so this is the really key thing, if they find there's a material threat to the safety of themselves or the public. So I think, since we're being called up the floor, and the floor is going to be short, that we should come back at 45 or, a few minutes after the floor and try to pick this back up. And by then we may be able to look at a draft, I imagine.
yeah, I think we'll be, it should be ready by then. So I'll see you guys at 3:45.